Greetings everyone, here's Lodrik and this is a game war in the Pacific Advanced Edition. This is a game play by email match against Jochen. He is a commander for the Allied forces and for me it is the Empire of Japan. This will be more or less the last, I think, battle turn of this match. After a long discussion and a little back and forward with Kilroy, we both agree that the match is maybe better not to continue. More or less I'm defeated, let's say this. So, but we can maybe see the last actions here. The unlanding of additional troops is still okay. Of course, some of my cargo ships getting here coastal battery fire and some hits. This is totally normal. Some small parts of the devices getting disabled or destroyed. So far my plan was okay. I try to sneak more or less to Ceylon and to make a last minute attempt. And here more or less everything falls apart. This is my main carrier fleet. It is inside the same hex like the invasion fleet, covered by 2 or even 3 carrier screening fleets. Cruisers. Like two light cruiser formation and I think 1 heavy cruiser formation plus a battleship formation. Somehow still Jochen's cruiser formation bypassed all of these forces. And they also don't taking the invasion fleet, no, they're taking the carriers. And this is now nighttime, super short range. I have here Nagato and Mutsu for guarding, but it's not working. The 2 battleships maybe can help for a long range battle encounter, but not in this nighttime short range battles.
The Imperial Navy has achieved
And
another great victory.
Outcome is that 2 of my carriers are more or less immediately destroyed and 1/3 is heavily damaged, or at least at heavy fire, and heavy fire is always for carriers dangerous. So this is more or less the moment. I cannot make it better, I cannot really change it. I recorded this turn already, but unluckily the voice was missing, so I'm not more sure what I said already and what I not said. This is now the second. This is a smaller carrier task force is follow my invasion fleet. So I have always a main fleet. This is in this case amphibious assault group, and this one gets followed by this carrier division. This carrier division gets followed by a cruiser division, and so I set up so that they support each other more or less. But somehow, in this case, it's always not working. Kilroy's carriers, cruisers are always where they must be, and my own cruisers are where they are not. Now they're showing up, but too late. This is a light cruiser formation intercepting Kilroy's light cruisers. This is okay that I'm losing here 1 light cruiser by the torpedo attack is fine. I killed 2 enemy light cruisers. That is a good outcome. I mean, of course I had much higher numbers. Now my heavy cruisers showing up and intercepting enemy destroyers. Okay. This battle ends also with 2 destroyed enemy destroyers. Fine. All of this now, after these first 2 battles, when thinking of my carriers, the turn changed more or less in what I more or less expected, at least what my cover forcing is doing. So this is the next destroyer is more or less dead in the water. Now we have some scouting and night bombardment on Wabul. With is not too much damage. I'm only a little surprised, but I don't know if there's a game rule is. At least I see no flag. Where is all my flag? I mean, I have a lot of flag in my pool, but for some reason they're not shooting. I also have a radar, so I normally must have early warning, but it also looks like that I have only warning time of 5 minutes, and maybe because of the early or less short warning time I have no flag, but I thought the warning time is always related only to intercept, that the interceptor can get a better altitude level. This is stuff with really hardcore deep, and I don't know how to change it. Here's one hit on my repair ship. Maybe will not enough to sink it. But I understand a repair ship is damaged, cannot repair other ships. So here the first two carriers go down. So now my heavy cruisers engage this light cruiser formation, sunk my carriers. This also gets fine. I'm nothing really too big game changing this battle. This is still night, not many hits. And there's a next carrier with flotation problems. This is only a small landing operation at Pago, I think. So now my troops are still unloading. Of course, here we have some fire and hits on my cargo ships, but this I would still is normal, and I fully expect this. This is a big landing of all of the second wave. Normally the plan was that I have the first wave and the second wave. And the first wave is normally to take the base, secure the base, and then I can unload the main forces without these losses. These losses I can more or less save if I'm the owner of the base. So these losses are more or less primarily because it's an amphibious landing on an enemy hex. But I had no time more because the surprise was lifted. Jochen detected in the last moment more or less my fleets. And I know this whole operation on Ceylon was a last attempt and last minute hope. And it was a very risky operation because I don't have enough, let's say, I was not stronger than the allies. It was maybe a 50, we balance each other maybe. I had maybe the same amount of aircraft and battleships and cruisers and maybe Jochen had here. And the defender is normally always in the better position. And I was forced to rush this because it's end of the month. Now here again, my carriers getting intercepted. Again, where is the screening force? I don't know. So 2 more carriers go down. Now my cruisers showing up. They finding the enemy heavy cruiser formation. And this battle ends so more or less well for me. Of course I have more ships here. At the end, this heavy cruiser is heavily damaged and on fire and will not maybe survive this day. But on the other hand, Jochen lost his whole formation, you can say. Not more much left. So this is more or less the 2 broken pieces. So both of my damaged heavy cruisers engaged enemy heavy cruisers. Oh no, this is light cruisers. Okay. And I get here a bunch of additional shells on my already super damaged heavy cruiser. and I can only barely fight back. I'm out of ammunition at this point, I think. 2 support destroyers against both task forces don't want to fight. This is the rest of my heavy cruiser formation, taking on 2 destroyers. And both are more or less dead. This was maybe the one destroyer just survives this battle only to get a torpedo hit and is now also dead. So again, my surface screening fleets here now engage 2 enemy battleships, so I was a little surprised that there are still battleships. Because by my, I think 2 weeks ago, I was able to sink 2 British battleships, more or less by surprise and accident, because I was hunting Hermes. And then I find battleships. But there are still 2 more battleships here. Of course, they taking on my destroyers very easy. Okay. So again, my cruisers. And again, this outcome is more or less changing nothing. So my second light cruiser formation, taking on the enemy battleships. I would still say okay, why not? Many purely because maybe I get some torpedo hit on the battleships. I'm losing here 1 light cruiser. And the second is heavily damaged. But at least I was able to force the enemy battleships to consume a lot of ammunition. No torpedo hit. Unluckily. But now my battleships showing up. Again, too late. Now they're fighting the enemy battleships. And this is a more or less very clear victory for my side. This whole division is more or less wiped out, and I have here fire on my destroyers, but my battleships more or less took not too much damage. And the whole enemy task force is dead. So I don't know how many destroyers go down, plus 2 battleships and a bunch of light cruisers and heavy cruisers. Still more, but I'm not more sure if anyone has still ammunition left. A little. So the destroyers are all dead. Heavy fire, sunk, heavy damage, heavy fire. Ceres is maybe the only ship is simply avoiding every damage. Yeah. So again, my cover forces did what they had to do, and they did well, but simply too late. And their main purpose, secure the invasion fleet, okay, they did. Cover my carriers, no, they completely failed. And it's so the losses are simply so high on my side now in this situation that I have no way to operate in the future. At the end of the turn I can maybe explain why. So some additional bombardment on Port Blair, but there is I think not much left. All the zeros on the ground I picked up with my carrier fleet before. And what is here very surprisingly, and why I even move my carriers to this hex, I normally expected, of course, 200 fighters, bombers showing up. We have a last minute battle. thinking one more light cruiser and a destroyer is also dead. So again, surface ships, they know how to fight, but they don't know where to be. Some cargo ships going down, some additional landings. But yeah, what is here missing totally is normally the airstrike. Like I said, why I move all of these carriers to this location, simply because I expected out of Colombo and Kilroy's, Jochen's, I think 2, 3 carriers he have still here in this area, maybe 4, that there would be some airstrike. And that is why I bring all of my carriers I have and fill them up all with only zeros fighters to have maximum cap. And then there was no airstrike. Of course, but you can, this is hindsight. And again, this is also only in this very special situation. I was wondering so much that I say, okay, I load this file with the last 26 beta patch, because this is not the last beta patch. And if I do this, then the game completely changed. There's no thinking of my carriers, but then there's a big air battle. Then I also lose still carriers and ships, but then we have a big air battle, what I expected. But we play now with this version of this beta edition, so this is a true battle, and in this true battle there was no airstrike, okay, but there was a sinking of my carriers by night surprise. And because there's now all of my carriers, I think the only carrier is survived is Kaga. For some reason Kaga completely avoided here everything. But this is the only carriers left. Everything else is destroyed. Say I have only one carrier left, and I'm also low on maybe fuel. I cannot see it. One carrier is far too little to do anything. And I have now the situation that more or less the landing was all successful. I would say it was best case scenario for the unlanding. The losses were so light. I took the base. I could rush now for Colombo, but 2 problems. First problem is I have no air force to secure this. I must leave immediately with all ships I have, if they can move fast enough. So I cannot stay here longer to unload anything because I don't have any air cover. Means I have not enough supplies. So all of my forces, I have here I have here 4,000 attack value, but these supplies will never feed them long enough. So it's really this problem. I'm now at the island. All of my forces could fight if they had supplies, but they don't have supplies, and I am not able to bring in any supplies. There is nothing. All of my ships must retreat, and they will never come back more. So my forces are here starving and dying. So it is over. And of course, this was risky operation, and I was expecting this, and this is why I tried. I say if I was able to take Colombo with acceptable losses, I don't say I was always expecting here to lose stuff. Then I could say, okay, if I'm able to take Colombo and I can ship supplies in and keep this, then this base is more or less my forward base. This will threaten India. So Jochen had to pull forces to India. This will weaken his position in Rangoon, and then I maybe had the option to sooner or later attack also Rangoon. Now this is not more possible. My forces are now here locked. They will never come out more. They will also not fight here. In best case, I can take Colombo, but then it's still, this is best case. But yeah, I not even think so, because I know if you don't have supplies, all your attack value is nonsense. For if you want attack, you need supplies. For defending, it is maybe not. I mean, it's still better you have supplies, but at least for attacking, you need always supplies. You cannot attack without supplies. So again, this is only the short situation, because my forces are all here. All of my forces are here. I'm locked, and my carriers are all sunk. Only Kara left, means four less. Okay, and then I say okay, Jochen won. It's really make no sense more to continue this. At least I would not learn anything out of this more. The purpose of this match was more or less, this is my second match after Dojo. Kilroy is now the third one. Jochen's first, more or less. I think so. I mean, we both play AR, but it is really only to understand the functions, the mechanics, but not really learning how to play. Not really. And if I continue this now on, I would say, I don't know. Yeah, but what I learned, it's so special situation, and it is also not the situation that you could say like maybe like Midway after the Japanese conquer everything what they have to conquer and then they only must make defense. No, I not even have Rangoon. And my forces are all locked now. I mean, this is really much more worse than Midway. And it's also much earlier than Midway. So there's really for me no strategic way out. You can always say, yeah, bring all your carriers, make the decisive victory, sink all of the carriers. This is wishing. That is not strategy. There must be a realistic core of reliable information and statistic behind what I'm doing normally. So anyway, this is why I would say the match is over and Jochen won. But Jochen more or less forced me in this last ditch attempt. So he pushed me in this direction and this is why he won. I mean, I lose this war and he won this war. I was of course hoping for something better and longer, but it is like this. So yeah, we can maybe make a short log of this last day. So I lost 141 zeros, all within my carriers. The rest is all small stuff. And ship sunk last turn on my side. I lost here 1, 2, 3, 4 carriers. There were 2 light cruisers, 2 destroyers, and some cargo ships. This is all of this is okay. There's also more will sink soon. At least I think 1 heavy cruiser, 2 destroyers, and I think 1 light cruiser will also go down. They are all heavily damaged. This one is a AP, okay, with troops on board. Yeah, this guys will also go down, but this is only some support stuff. Doesn't matter. Here was this destroyer is fine. It's only with some system damage. This is all okay. Here's a little damage. This is all a little damage. This one has a little fire. Hard to say if it will survive. Maybe it will go down. The big guy will go down. This is all okay. Maybe this AK will go. Would go down. This is the destroyer here is dead. I would say guess. Here's 1 more AP, but overall here 1 more cargo ship. I have here normally also some supplies, but I cannot unload. I mean, I could normally say, yeah, unload, but then, I mean, they will all die, and yeah. This is a heavy cruiser. This will go. This ship is for sure lost, but after all of this heavy fighting, I would say, yeah, well done. The second heavy cruiser is maybe still possible to save. The fire is not too big. If I turn around immediately. The battleships and all of these destroyers are heavily damaged, but none of them are ready to sink, I would say. I can save it. Here's the second heavy cruiser. Hard to say, but I would still say it's okay. If I get the flooding under control, you can maybe reach out. If I hit now here my carriers, I would maybe go into this hex, take all of the ships, and then go back into save the day. But again, you can do this, but yeah, it's For me, it is over. Uh, yeah, what I cannot say much more for this. So I have my big forces here, but I have not the supplies. For unloading the supplies, I need 2 more days, and normally I need air cover for this. But Jochen have here hundreds of fighters and bombers and maybe more he can bring in. And he had also, I think, his carriers somewhere. Maybe he lost all of his surface heavy cruisers and destroyers and maybe all of his battleships. True, but if he have 100, 200 fighters and 100 torpedo bombers or dive bombers, all of this might of cruisers and destroyers will not save the day. So this is simply Second World War, not First World War. Yeah, everyone can discuss this, and everyone have other point of view for this. But I simply say it would not give me much realistic experience to continue this. And Jochen was also not really. I think we was both maybe a little tired with this, and so we agree that we stop this campaign and call it a victory for the Allies. Yeah, maybe I forgot. The ship sunk for the Allies. I mean, this is now Foku War. I cannot say it's 100% true. No, last turn. There's 2 battleships go down for sure. 3 heavy cruisers go down. This I'm also sure, and the 3 light cruisers. So I think all of the heavy stuff really go down. But how many destroyers sunk here? Hard to say, but at least 6 or more. This is a bunch of ships. And I would say if I lose 2 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, and 4 destroyers, then it's still a victory for me. If I only compare this, but with the losses of fighters and carriers, and the loss of all hope for reinforce my troops and send supplies over, this is a big changing. So not really the sinking of the ships, but the total victory in the air now. Yeah, good. There was nothing really else to say about this. I was normally here only taking Darwin to make sure that I take Darwin, that I have here later on a more easy way to handle this Dutch East Indies situation. And I was thinking at some point if I maybe in the future try to make an invasion attempt on New Zealand. Oh, but of course the time runs out. I was too slow here. If you check the Kilroy game, then you will see. And at the Kilroy game, I more or less I learn out of the Jochen game, and I realize, okay, you must speed up some stuff, and you must act more quickly and more reckless. But still, don't be stupid reckless. But you can see how the fight with Kilroy and in New Zealand will start. It's really at the edge of all supply chain and chain for the Japanese. It's especially with Kilroy pushing always in the center Pacific. It will give me some headache. But here in the Jochen game, I was simply really too slow. I was too slow to take early on Port Moresby. Because Port Moresby is more or less. It will be, I think, be more and more critical in the future to hold Rabaul, because the B-17s can always bomb here, and this will make it hard to maintain Rabaul. Of course, you can make here this big battle, bring here a lot of fighters, and then fight here every day. And maybe it's a great meat grinder, and I don't know if Japan will win this or lose this. This is another question, but if you want to keep Rabaul safe, you need normally to take Port Moresby. And with Port Moresby and Darwin secured, the Japanese have, I think, a much better stand in the long run for Dutch East Indies. The other question is maybe New Caledonian. it's the same level of priority like a Pop Moresby, maybe. It's maybe more or less a question. Uh, you don't really need both Nuclear Caledonian and Fiji. Of course, if you can take both, you have this buffer. If you, in this case, I was not able to go for New Caledonian fast enough, but I took Fiji, but far too slow still, I would say. This allow me still to make normally a chain of bases to shield against direct shipping to New Caledonian and force Jochen to really go everything to New Zealand. Um, yeah, I cannot really say here much more. Uh, in China, nothing was perfectly well. It was also not terrible well. It was maybe a little slow, but I had some struggles. I can do it better, but I would still say it was not so terrible. And I also learned here something with this movement of units and how to supply units. This works better in the Kilroy game, but we both learn. So this match was mainly for entertainment, to help Jochen also to grow his channel. Jochen, yeah. The same like with Dojo. Dojo asked me, hey, I need someone, can you play and can we make it on YouTube? And so more or less it's the same here. And I think this is the most important, that you learn something and that we maybe can, with this videos, we can maybe help others to explain some mechanics and answer some questions and maybe give other people the hope to understand this game, because it's really a little complicated sometimes and not everything is well done. And I'm happy if at least one or two people take on this game and like to play it even today, not giving up after 1 week. Yeah, I don't want to really talk too much about what could be better, blah blah blah. Everything could be better. If there's a wish or question for, you can always ask. I was also asked if I can maybe make a new Japanese setup video, how to set up industry and so on. This I can do. I can also make an other video about this, what is now the situation and what I can all change, but then I need some more question, where you want change, what you will change. I mean, what you are interested in. Because I can only say in this game, and this I try to avoid in Kilroy game, is I rely here far too much on Navy pilots for air war. I think the Japanese really must try to push the Key 43 Oscar 1C, push this airplane in the air war against, in China, in Rangoon, everywhere where there's a land battle. I would always try, and if it's normal range with drop tanks or without drop tanks, I would always try to prefer to use Oscars. They are maybe not they are not better than a Zero, but if you're losing this kind of pilots, you can replace them much better. Maybe later. I mean, I don't say that the Zero is bad. I mean, the Zero is really better, but you must use your good Navy pilots where you really need them, and you only can use Zero pilots in the carriers and here out far in the Pacific. At least if you're striking, you must move fast and you need airplanes with long range. This is why you use a lot of Zeros in these areas. Where you don't move much, you better use the the Oscars. Also for defense, you can maybe use the Oscar. This I would simply only say, but this is a overall strategic thinking question. The other is maybe always a question of how much you want to push the industry, how you want to set up R&D. This is always big questions, and you can always change them. And I will make this new Japanese setup, and I can make some more. Um, I can discuss there what you can do and if it makes sense to do, or what is the consequence if you change it in this direction. But always, I'm free and open to get questions. Uh, Overall, this game was good and much. It's more balanced than, of course, the Dojo game. I don't say that Dojo don't know what he was doing, but I think Dojo was simply maybe at the beginning a little surprised, and Dojo also I think never played the 2-day turn setup, and I also only did this with him. And yes, it has some benefits, but the game is really a little hard sometimes to control with 2-day setups. It can have, and I don't know if you want to play this game for a long time, and then this 2-day setup is sometimes you kill your own units because you make one mistake and then it's double is the losses you have, or even more, because you cannot tell the task force, oh no, I make one mistake here and the task force is running the wrong direction, and then oh, the second day they're also still running in the wrong direction. I mean, that is a lot of the. This is even at this 1-day turn setup sometimes a little stupid because there's some strange stuff happening. Anyway, so the game from industry point of view, it was okay, and was better than in the Dojo game. The Dojo game was only giving me not enough, I think, military pressure. So you always, I mean, of course, some strategies working with one guy and not working with the other guy. And like if you play chess, you can play chess easy, but and you can win many times if you play only against the opponent is maybe simple-minded. So you must normally. The question is, of course, what you want fight. You want find it fast and simple, or you want something very slow but hardcore. Find the right opponent is, I think, here the big question. I was a little. What I really don't like is always this mechanic of gambling with if the bases are burned down or not burned down. That Soabaya burned down completely was really stupid. In the Kilroy game, it's happened exactly the same. In Kilroy game, it was even more worse. Singapore burned down, and Soabaya. Both cities was completely destroyed. But on the other hand, all other bases, Balikpapan, Tarakan, Balikpapan, Palembang, nearly every other base I captured in the Kilroy game was nearly 99% okay. So 2 bases completely burned and the rest all fine. I mean, maybe it's balanced out, but I don't know how you want to handle this game if Palembang will burn down completely. If Palembang burn down you completely, you have your a damage of 2 million supplies. I mean, keep in mind, one refinery is 1,000 each. So this is a 1,000, so 1 million. Here is 800, this is 900,000. This is more or less 2 million supplies. If this burns down, then I don't know. It's the big question is, of course, what is if you don't have Palembang? If you cut Palembang out of the game, how the Japanese will suffer in the long run? If everything else is fine and only Palembang would go down, maybe you can handle this. I don't know. But what happened if Palembang go down, Surabaya and Balikpapan? If all 3 cities are burnt down and you did nothing wrong, simply only by luck. This is I don't like at this game. It's gambling. It's not really gambling because you cannot influence it. I don't know. This is really, I think, the biggest part of the game I not like much, and I hoped there would be other solution for it. Maybe with a mod, but I don't know. yeah. And yeah, this game again, the rest was fine. Maybe a last look on the ship's losses for, let's say, all ships, and if we see no carrier battleships, heavy cruisers, uh, and make by points. So Jochen lost one fleet carrier, I lost one fleet carrier, second fleet carrier. Then he lost a lot of battleships. His next small fleet carrier for me, more battleships. So you can see very clearly that uh, more or less Jochen lost a lot of heavy hitters, battleships, and I lost half of my carriers. Yeah, and from point of view, it's maybe this is equal, so maybe we kill each other on point view, but simply, who need battleships? These battleships are really only floating gun platforms. They don't really have much more purpose. A submarine, a torpedo bomber, 1-2 torpedo hits, and the battleship is crippled. Not maybe sunk immediately, but crippled. So cruiser warfare was also, I would say, in favor for me. So I was able. I think the whole surface engagement was good. If we now take this all out and going only for destroyers, I lost some destroyers. Is this by point? Yeah, this is by points. I lost 3 first class destroyer, and here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. So 8 first class destroyers. And these are already second class destroyers, normally not counting too much. And the amount of destroyers Jochen lost is high, but again, latest in 43 or 44, the Allies produced this much easier. So yeah, I was successful in surface engagement, more or less all of this engagement, but I lost simply the first carrier battle with Kaga, and was only by a desperate lucky situation it was able to sink Jochen's carrier. That was the chance was very low to be successful, but I was maybe able to just barely come out of this battle with a blue eye and say okay, it's okay. But this second carrier engagement now give me really no hope more. I think I also failed in the bigger picture. What I had to do was well, 2 weeks ago in this game time, I had to bring in maybe all of my carriers, or more or less most of my carriers, to Singapore to have here 2 or 3 more fleet carriers with torpedo bombers loaded, that I have the opportunity to also strike Jochen. Because I saw Jochen's carriers once here, and the second day I think here, something like this. And if I had torpedo bombers and fighters ahead, but no torpedo bombers, then I could maybe hit or cripple him here. If I crippled maybe 1 or 2 more carriers, I would maybe not more be in so desperate situation to rush here everything. I could maybe go a little more slow. Or, but yeah. In hindsight, you know all these things. But this is, I think, the big strategic mistake, because I have here still my carriers in the Pacific, in the hunting for cargo ships, but not really so successful. And I had normally maybe to shift. After the thinking of cargo, I would maybe really had to say, okay, I keep 2 fleet carriers in Pacific and waiting for allied carriers show up. And if there's no carriers show up, I keep all of my carriers in the India Ocean, because I must have a solution for Ceylon or for Rangoon. I don't must have both, but I need Rangoon or Ceylon to keep the balance of power here in the West. At least this is my thinking. I don't believe that the Japanese have in the long run any hope to keep this somewhere reasonable if the Allies controlling everything so early on and all of the time. Maybe if I had a total success in China, then I would also say, okay, I don't need this, but it's also somewhere you need to have a success with the Japanese. In reality, the Japanese took Rangoon, and this was maybe fine, but yeah. Rangoon is also only a buffer. The Rangoon is a buffer to protect against allied forces. It's a battlefield and nothing more. Yeah, there's some oil and you can use it, and I think you also need it. And you need the points. Maybe the points is not so important if you don't care the points. But without this, there's always airstrikes on Bangkok, Hanoi. Everything is in range, and it's more easy for the allies to cross you over and attack here sooner or later. Yeah. Good. So I think this is first enough. Of course, I don't answer any questions, not every question, but if you want ask more, ask more. But I try to explain why I think it makes no sense to continue this. Jochen will start, I think, a new match, this time on the Japanese side. You can, if you want to see, I play Kilroy, and there you, Kilroy is a little on same like the dojo level, different, but different. Maybe if you think you also want play, you can play like Jochen or so on, and you want to, maybe I can try a second match sooner or later again. I also would only say this last point. Scenario 1, I think if you want to play Japanese and you play scenario 1, you really need to understand the game. Don't start this with scenario 1 if you don't have experience with Japan. If you are new or never played Japan before, I always choose scenario 2. Scenario 2 simply gives me more oil, more fuel, and some more small ships. Not heavy hitters, but you get, I think, a half dozen more destroyers and submarines and all of this. Small stuff you can lose more easy, and some light cruisers. And I think 1 or 2 more fleet carriers. The rest is all the same. You get also more army stuff, but you get more from everything, a little here, little there. And much more important is the oil and the supplies, I think. Because with scenario 1, you really have a very strict timeline. You must conquer some positions in time, be fast enough, secure Singapore, Malaya, take the Palembang, take Java, Borneo, Philippines, and I think Port Moresby, I think this is, and maybe in Darwin. If you have this is, I think, the must-have. If you want to have a, and Tulagi maybe, this is maybe easy. Here you come already to the point where the allies can interfere much better and easier. The same here with Rangoon, Ceylon, India. This is up to the allied player, how well he is to let the Japanese player struggle. Good, I end here now. Ask everything. Maybe one super last question or information is top pilots. No, I was also not really so successful in the air war here. My top pilot not even reached 10 kills. I have only some. Have you many missing kills with 4 kills? Killed or missing in action, no aces, not too many aces. The air war was barely okay. I think in the navy warfare I was okay. Sinking 300 ships, the points, of course this last day killed me a lot of points. But I also sunk a lot. The air war is, I think, barely acceptable. Is this early on, the Japanese must kill much more than they're losing. Having here the 13 to 11 kill ratio is barely enough, I would say. Because later on this will change. The Allies getting the better airframes. But again, about airframes, ship construction, supply production, industry, engine production. I think this I can better make another video and then explain how to start, where to push, and what is the danger, what can happen like this. Good. Thank you. See you next time. Take care. Bye bye.